Hello students, this is Mr. Sims and welcome to our first video lesson of the new school year. Video lessons are used, and one of the things I want to encourage before we get started on these is I encourage you to watch these as many times as you need to in order to get what the lessons are doing. Alright, day one, unit rates and proportional relationships. Our lesson objective for today's video lesson is I can compare unit rates. And you would actually be taking notes just as you were taking them, for real. So if you see me writing something down, you should be writing them as well, unless I mention something about not writing them down. So the warm-up, which is actually what we were going to leave off, is find the following unit rates. All right. So to find a unit rate, if we're going to compare a unit rate, we've got to be able to find it. Right? The simplest way to find a unit rate, and unit rate means per one, okay, is to just divide. Now you will have calculators to help you. So if you struggle with long division, then don't be afraid to use that calculator from here. All right, so what we'll do is I'm going to go through these first couple of examples. Find the following unit rates. The rate of 210 miles in 6 hours. Right. So how we write a unit rate, and what's going to help, is time will generally go on the bottom. So we're going to put miles on top, hours on the bottom. And this bar here means that we're going to divide. And the only way you're really going to mess this up is if you divide backwards. Okay. So we're going to put miles on top, 210 divided by 6. Right. Because I want to save time in this video, I'm going to use a calculator and take 210 divided by 6. And we get 35. So this is 35 miles per hour. Right? And that's really all there is to it. The second one, let's go ahead and do this. Now, generally speaking, whenever you're dealing with dollars, I want $18 for 12 pounds. Money, for right now, will always go on top. And then you put pounds on the bottom. So we have dollars per pound. So 18 would go on top, 12 would go on the bottom, and when you divide it. Now let's say that you wanted to do this by hand. If you wanted to do long division, you put the 18 in, the 12 goes out. Top number always goes inside, like so. Right. But we're going to use a calculator here because, like I said, we're trying to save some time, and we get 1.5, or it would be $1.50 per pound. Right? Okay. So that's how we find a basic unit rate. Right. All right, at times throughout these lesson videos, there are going to be opportunities where I'm going to tell you to hit pause. And when I tell you to hit pause, it's because I want you to try a problem and then come back and check your answer afterwards. It's kind of like a little checkpoint. So in this second here, what you're going to do is you're going to hit pause now. And you're going to work on this problem here. All right? So hitting pause now. Okay, and we are back. And what I'm doing is, this is kind of your check to see if you got this right. So 400 meters in 55 seconds using long division or using a calculator, which is what we're going to use for right now. 400 divided by 55, we get 7.2727, so on. Round to the nearest tenth. The tenth is 1 point after the decimal. So to you check to the point to the right, the number to the right of this, and if it's 5 or higher, we round this up to 3. If not, we leave it. So the 7 makes us go 7.3 meters per second. All right, so that's just the first part of this. So now we move on to the example. So we're going to turn the page over to page 3. All right, so this video, I'm going to have example number 1. So comparing unit rates, which is the lesson objective. Which is the better buy? All right, so we got Value Mart is advertising a back-to-school sale on pencils. A 30-pack of pencils is for $8, whereas a 12-pack is $5. Which is the better buy? All right, I'm going to write this word up here. When you solve math problems, the close reading math attack, we talk about the gist, reading for the gist. In a math problem, that's usually at the end of the sentence. All right. So now what we're going to do is better buy. All right, so there is something to talk about. In this case, the better buy is what's cheaper. So it actually is going to be the smaller number. Right? So we're going to use unit rates here. Now some of you might be able to solve this problem without using unit rates, but unit rates work for every single one. So we're going to start with value mart. So I'll abbreviate that with VM. And actually, never mind. It's value mart for the whole thing. So we got a 30 pack of pencils. So now here's what we want to understand. When you're finding unit rates with money, money goes on top. So it's not always the larger number goes on top. Right? So money goes on top, and the pencils go on the bottom. All right, so it's going to be 8 over 30. So when you take your calculator, you're going to divide 8 divided by, make sure you do it in the right order, 8 divided by 30. And we get a decimal, 0.26666 repeating, so we're going to say money always goes 2 decimal places. So, oops, I don't know what happened there. All right, so we go to the 6 here. The 6 makes it go up to 7. So 27 cents per pencil. Okay, over here we're going to do dollars per pencil as well. So here we've got $5 for 12 pencils. So we take 5 and divide it by 12. And you get 0.416. So the 6 is going to round this up to a 2. So 0.42 cents per pencil. Okay, and some of you probably already knew this before we even began. So the better buy. Okay, 30 for 8 is better because it's cheaper. Right? Okay, so also something to keep in mind is not always the cheaper. Okay, it's not always the smaller number that is the best deal. Right? Money, it's always better to spend less. All right, we're going to skip exercise 1 because you're going to come back to that in a moment, and you notice it's just like the one up above. And we're going to do another example of comparing unit rates. And we'll talk about gas mileage. Okay, gas mileage. And with gas mileage, in this particular case, more is better. Okay, so if you have a car that goes 20 miles per gallon of gas, that's better than a car that does 10 miles per gallon of gas. Reading for the gist, I'm going to go right to the end. Which vehicle has better gas mileage? So as I reread, and do my annotating here, I've got Tom, who drove 290 miles and 23.2 gallons of gas. Notice I underlined those. This is called annotating. So Tom, 290 miles for 23.2 gallons. Okay. And generally speaking, in this case, miles per gallon. Okay, we want to know how many miles we can get for a gallon of gas, because that's how you buy gas, is by the gallon. Right. We wouldn't say how many gallons do I need to drive 1 mile. All right, that's not something we would measure. So we do the division using the calculator here, and I get 12 point, saving you some math here, 12.5 mpg, which means miles per gallon. All right. Then we've got Ann. Ann is driving 225 miles in 15 gallons. So 225 miles, 15. Notice how I'm writing in the units of measure as well. All right, that's a very good practice to get yourself in. Okay. So when we do this, I'll save you some math, because you're going to use a calculator most likely for some of these problems. 15 miles per gallon. So then the question is, who has better gas mileage? Ann. And it says justify. Ann, because she gets a higher miles per gallon. Right. So this concludes our first lesson video. If you need to rewatch this video, I highly recommend doing so. But this is Mr. Sims signing off.